Hello and welcome back to Content Junkeez, your home for all things content creation. I'm your host, Austin Alvarez, joined by our co-host, Robert Condell. And today is another fun interview. We are joined by, I would say, the director of Sticky Paws Studios, Mr. Travis Fletcher, who's also kind of my boss. So I have to be on my best behavior right now, goddammit.
Let's go.
But Travis, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to get you on. It was a no-brainer when we were talking about content. John obviously has the big vision, but you are really the driving force behind the content that we do here.
Listen, without a map, I mean, what's the purpose of a map if you don't have a vehicle to drive? You know, that's kind of like what I'm doing. Like I'm building the vehicle to accomplish his roadmap and whatever he wants to do. So that's kind of like, that's where we mesh. We respect each other's kind of like our purposes. Like I'm the tech guy, kind of the workflow guy. Like I have a lot of creative background, and then John, network guy, he has a lot of the what I call the big vision. But at this point, like we share the vision, so it's not even. He just brings a lot of experience. He's just a much older person, and he's existed in Hollywood for a while, so he knows things that we can't even begin to know. Which, you know, I learn every single day, and he's like, yep, I have like about 3 experiences that this has happened. And I'm like, great, I'm glad I'm experiencing it for the first time.
Yeah. So Robert and I have given our experiences before, but for you, we kind of have almost kind of a similar track record, except you actually completed, I did not. But I feel like we both were doing stuff as kids, because we, you know, Robert, not to date him, but
I'm the old guy here.
Yeah, you and I have kind of had an entire life of understanding creation with electronics.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, in early YouTube, I pretty much, like, by the time I became self-aware that I can do stuff, like around 10 years old, like YouTube has already existed. And, you know, I'm almost certain that if I was born today, I'd be an iPad kid. Not because my parents are, you know, bad. It's just because I'm really drawn to like technology and creation within it. And I've always like had to battle like with my friends, like they've never been into technology as much as I have, or even content creation, which we didn't call it then. It was just making videos or making movies or spoofs or whatever we did.
What did you start? What was your first?
First
thing
piece
you did that you created?
Well, I mean, I have officially like the first thing I ever created. My mom had a Panasonic camcorder that took like the mini discs, and like they're the tiny discs.
Like the UMD and the PSP?
Yeah, precisely. So like they bought it because they went on vacation and bought this camera. But, you know, once I got my greasy little fingers on it, I started just making videos. Me and my friend spent a lot of time together. We had a desert near our house. So we would go out to the desert and do man versus wild, or what we called kid versus wild. And we're like 8 years old, 9 years old, going off together alone in the desert with like 4 waters and a Gatorade and this camera. And I didn't really know how to, that's the thing. It's like, I knew how to record the content because of the camera, and basically I'd record it and we just watch it back on the camera. Like I didn't know how to get the DVD to the computer. I didn't know editing softwares. Even at that point, I didn't even know Windows Movie Maker existed. It wasn't until like, you know, I started getting a little bit older. My mom had like what was called Adobe Premiere Essentials, which was like back when you bought the discs. It was like the preview version of Premiere, which didn't let you export anything. It just let you kind of do stuff. It was really crazy. So
that's so fucked. I'm sorry. Like you're like, wow, I spent a lot of time on this. I really think I can do this. But let me release it.
My official video, my first video ever posted on the internet is a screen. Like I set up the camera. I screen recorded my TV where I had like the big ones with the big backs and the glass screen of me playing Wii Tanks. It was a tutorial on how to beat Wii Tanks on Wii Play on the original Wii.
How old were you?
I think I was
like 10 or 11.
10, no, I think I was 10, or honestly maybe 9.
Wow.
And you know, and that I used Windows Movie Maker, so I figured out how to like get the footage off the camera because it wasn't the DVD one; it was a different one. And I put on the computer, and but I didn't know how to spell properly, and there's no spell checking on Windows Movie Maker, right? So I would like it says follow directions, and it's ERECTSIZ whatever, and it was like it's kind of embarrassing. And for the longest time, I unlisted my videos because as I got better and I was so critical, I just kind of kept going back and be like, I hate this, it's awful, I'd unlist it. And then I had this like coming to Jesus moment after I graduated high school where I'm just like, listen, this is my history, right? One day I'm going to lose access to the account or something, and I'm going to want to watch this. And, you know, it really tells a lot about me. So if you just really look up any of my videos, like I'll tell you right now, it's like, it's called Sip Schnookie, SIPSHNUKE is my first channel ever on the internet. Then there's Gamer Crazer on CP, which was my gamer channel, and CP meant Club Penguin. when I made it. And then I evolved it into Junkeez Inc. Productions, and like I just reinvented myself because I loved creating logos. I saw my idols were like Shane Dawson, Onision, Mystery Guitar Man, iJustine, like Toby Turner,
iJustine, I know
Tobuscus.
her. Okay.
Yeah.
Like so, it's just like all these
Tobuscus, I haven't heard that name in forever.
all these people are just creating content, and they're like older, and they're just making it happen. They do things called lazy vlogs. So like when iPhone started having good cameras, they used to make stuff. So obviously, it was all bad.
When did you were like, okay, I'm gonna go to school for this to make? What did you go to school for? Did you go to UNLV?
I did. In college, I went to UNLV Film, and my mom has been like, I have the best parents. Like my dad worked his ass off, making it so my mom can run her own business debt free, and then my mom was just an amazing, supportive person in my life for. Just anything they saw, they leaned into my creativity. Where, some kids, like they get really into something that's non-educational or whatever. They'll just kind of be like, focus on your education, do this. But I got into cameras, and although I broke all the equipment, they saw that I was enjoying myself, being independent and being creative. So they actually justified the $200 purchase for the camera. So when it came to schooling, I was always like, Mom, I want to go to school for this. And she's like, she's a much older person, and she's like, well, I'm not going to put you in a specialized elementary school for this. That's ridiculous. So I went to standard elementary school. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to go to middle school. Let's go to a gifted arts middle school. And then she's like, no, we're not going to do that. And then when it came to high school, we started to explore magnet schools or like specialty schools like Las Vegas Academy, Northwest Career and Technical Academy, and they had their like program areas. So I joined a CTA, or a career and technical school, that had a film department. And then I joined, and they cut the film department. So then I was thrusted into broadcast, but I still, even though, because I had like up until that point, many, many years of content experience, I went in knowing exactly what I want. So I was already like above mentally than all of my peers. And even then, where I thought the problem was solved, finally I have people to collaborate with. These people didn't know what they want to do. They chose the easy program area, the film, the whatever.
Wow. So Travis, safe to say, has been creating content more than half his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
Like my earliest memories.
That's wild, bro.
8 years old, I was
What's
creating
funny
content.
is he brought up Movie Maker, and I remember making like almost like how I started Bizarre Junkeez is like the images, like image documentary on like Movie Maker, and I remember like adding like, oh, I love this, so I'm going to add to it. And like this is before I knew about copyright or anything. And I was like,
Well, when did you start making content?
Oh, I was like, so like for me,
How old are you now? How old are both of you?
So I'm 26. What, 25?
25.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I started making like little home videos, but didn't really do anything with them in elementary school. For me though, what my content was music. So middle school, I was in bands, playing shows, doing all that.
Play guitar? You play guitar. I think I saw a video you playing
Yeah.
guitar.
So I was a guitar player in the bands that I was in. And so really like middle school and high school is when I really started like creating music, creating content around that music, doing music videos, doing like artwork I didn't really draw, but like I understood the importance of having a good album art.
So middle school, how old are you then?
Like 13, 14.
Same age.
Yeah.
So you guys all started like in your teens, basically.
Well, I mean,
early
adolescence.
Yeah, early
early
adolescence. Like, because I remember using Movie Maker and like wanting to. When I was a child, I was like, I want to be a director.
That's crazy.
I wouldn't watch movies. I'd watch the behind the scenes of movies.
Wow.
Like
I loved the green. Like I was the first person like at like 12 years old to be like green screen.
See, I
Like,
wasn't doing that, but like the Indiana Jones films before they released 4 and 5. I had the box set, and the only DVD that has wear on it is the behind the scenes DVD because that's all I would watch.
So you guys are so for people who don't know, Austin is the video. What is your title here at Sticky Paws?
I guess technically my title is the head of the engineering or the head of the editing department here at Sticky Paws.
And Travis founded Sticky
Yeah,
Paws.
yeah.
Like
He's one of the
thing, everything you see here,
is because
was
of Travis.
Travis's genius.
I call it my brainchild,
Yes,
or
his brain.
And how I've really kind of like distilled it. It's the Sticky Paws School of Podcasting. So everything we do here it has a purpose and drive behind it. Where although I'm like classically trained as a cinematographer at UNLV, and that's what I thought I wanted to. Well, I still want to do that. I still creatively
and you do
involve
get to
myself.
flex that
it's
muscle.
not anything close to that.
But but what makes me it gave me the knowledge, all of my adolescence and teenage, and all the problems I solved, and collaboration, and then college is shown in this building. It's like I have solved all of the problems I had creating content growing up, which is I need one person behind the rig to be able to do everything, right? That with that ability, we have the option to scale content. Because the biggest issue for me growing up was like, it was just a one-man band and it was a problem. What college taught me is that collaboration can make something amazing, right? So just all these little quirks made me feel not humbled, but I didn't feel like I needed the biggest, baddest equipment to do something. Like I didn't need the equipment to justify my creativity. So whenever I found a technology that works to complete a goal, I go with the technology and try to break it and try to extend it as far as possible. So I'm a very unique person in how I problem solve, where you're like, hey, I want to do a broadcast. First, you're going to go to the first union guy you know and ask him for all of the union equipment and everything. You're going to need a team of 17 people. I took it from, I'm trying to do podcasting. Where do we start? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I reverse engineered what we really needed to do what we do. And then I fit it into this building somehow.
So being that, like Sticky Paws is I'm going to call it podcasting PR solutions. Anyone with a business should come here and do podcasting to do video, right?
I agree.
And I always say, if you're not doing video and you're in business, or you're a business and you're not doing it, then why the fuck are you in business? Like, to me, it's like you should be making video regardless, right?
Yeah, it's like there's nothing else but video now. I mean, like, because like audio almost doesn't exist isolated. I mean, you could just click your phone off and listen, which is fine. Because I mean, how many of you guys and the listeners just turn on YouTube before you fall asleep and just listen? That's in a way just audio podcasting.
Okay, so you are these younger kids. I'm not gonna say kids. You're not kids, but like you got young adults, right? But do you find it weird or ironic that a lot of our clients, even for myself, are a little older, and they're now looking to you guys, the tech guys, the fucking editors, super smart, to solve this problem of being on video?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, now they're like, Travis, how many calls do you get to be like, I want to be on video, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to start. Austin, you were just saying you had a client, same thing. Your phone's ringing. Video is the hot girl right now, like that hot topic right now. And you guys are going to be, in my opinion, and I've been in video a long time, like my phone does not stop ringing now because people are asking, how do we get on video? How do you scale video? How do you put your brand out there? Podcasting is one option. If not, I actually think it's the option right now. The easiest way to step in is podcasting.
Yep, I agree. Definitely.
What's your take on that?
I mean, it's so to answer your initial question is like, why are all the old people finally coming back down to us?
They're waking up.
It's because the
boomers are going, hey, no, I'm not even joking.
No, you're right.
The boomers are going, hey,
right.
I'm like, crazy enough, when you come to this event, there'll be like a lot of older guys going, I'm 60 years old, but I want to start video. And I have that conversation a lot. I'm 50. I'm just starting out my business. I'm starting, they're late to the game, which is awesome. I think that's actually awesome. But we've just been we've been like in this space so long that it's natural for us.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Travis first. Like, what do you tell a new person that's just starting out to do video and content? Like, what's your advice there?
I guess the first thing I find that I'm more of a therapist than I am like a consultant, because like they always give me their story of like where they gone up, whether they're from the streets or from like, they were super sheltered, or they just like they were told one thing and they joined like the radio industry. And as free as everyone is, and like free to speech, like there's indoctrination. Like, of course the radio industry is saying everyone else is wrong, we're right, and the film industry is saying everyone else is wrong, we're right. And of course we are saying now, as a podcasting industry, we are right? But the one thing that I always distill, I reverse engineer, because that's how I solve problems, is like, instead of solving a symptom, let's solve the reason why it's happening. And the biggest issue with content creation, and the older people who have those businesses are now being, surpassed by the young people, is they're like, well, video content is just like super expensive and blah, blah, blah. Like, I hired this social media girl and she only does a post a week and it sucks. And it's like it's because they're trying to solve a symptom. They're like, we don't have video. Find someone with video, give us video. But at the end of the day, it's not even about just having it, because having a video or having an Instagram or having a website is not enough to separate yourself anymore. So the next step is, once the next level becomes saturated, what differentiates you? It's
personal brand.
It's a personal brand. It's like how people perceive you, PR, all these things. But it's either you're first to a platform or a new concept, and then you're known for it, or you just got to be really unique and efficient with it, because then you start thinking like a business. Enter podcasting. Podcasting has existed since early 2000s as internet radio. When the iPod came out, Apple came out with their podcast app. And whenever that blew up, so all this internet radio shifted to a streamable version of audio, which is podcasting. Fast forward down, you have Joe Rogan's, you have all these, really popular people kind of making it happen on podcasting. And then just recently with the acquisition of Joe Rogan by Spotify with the $500 million or something crazy.
That's what it took for the old people to pay attention. Money.
It took the bank investors, and those are the people who really make the decisions, because the moment they go, let's try it, it cascades.
Yeah.
It's like, so now everyone's like, okay, so there's definitely money in it. If Spotify is willing to buy for multiple millions of dollars this brand, what's the value in it? And the value is efficient content creation. And the biggest issue is if you're going to hire somebody for your company to make content, there's the pre-production meeting, there's the censorship meeting, there's the drafts, there's the production day, then there's edits, and then to just post one piece of content, it takes months, right? And that's
traditionally, for sure. Yes.
So then break it down to, okay, you hire an internet, social media person to just do it. Now you're relying on whoever they are and their background to represent your brand that has 20 years experience. Obviously, they're not going to capture it.
Yep.
Or they're going to placate to a demographic that's not the demographic. If you're like an investment firm, you're not going to talk to the 20-year-olds. They have no money yet,
Yeah.
right? So you don't get a 20-year-old, TikToker to create the content, because who is that speaking to? That's not going to speak. You got to speak the language to your demographic. So podcasting, how that enters a thing is like, now you give the power to the business owners, the experts. And for the longest time, podcasting was easy. All you need is a microphone and a mixer. But then they start doing the math. They're like, okay, where do I post it? How do I edit it? Oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. Okay, I need a podcast engineer, and they're charging, because they're from radio, $1,000 a session, and they're union people and blah blah blah. So Sticky Paws says, okay, let's reverse engineer why podcasting is better and why we believe it. Because if we don't believe in our own product, what are we selling? So we say, okay, we don't need you, Mr. Businessman, to do anything but sit in a chair for an hour and talk to one of your clients or guests or whatever, to just discuss what you guys would talk about behind closed doors anyway. And now podcasting, because it could be distributed at scale, you spend an hour in the room, then we can cut social media clips. But now we're talking to the people. So now that the old people have TikTok, the old people now have Facebook, and the old people now have Instagram, we can cut clips that are boring to the younger demographic, but those algorithms work. So when you're swiping up, it's like, oh, an investment podcast. It's like, yeah, you got to invest in 401ks. And to the young people, it's just noise and they swipe past it. But to the older people, they're like, hey, I have some money now. Now I'm investing. Podcasting is the way to do it. For 1 hour a week, you can get content every single day of the month.
There's one other thing too. God, I feel like that we can break that whole thing down. First, I want to touch about hiring a social media person and versus podcasting, because that you made a great point by they would have to basically interpret your brain and reverse engineer your brain. So it's like look through it through a different lens versus when you're podcasting, you're just talking, right?
Correct.
And then one of the other things that I want to add to what you just said is podcasting is like an experience. So a lot of my older clients, I tell them, because you have a platform that you're a host for, now you bring experience and value to your guests, potential clients, and it becomes a relationship building tool because, hey, I got a podcast, come on it, I want to feature you, and it makes it not about you, and in turn builds relationship to your network.
Yep.
Like face-to-face value, right? Not only do you have this mic that's broadcasting to the world, but immediate clients you can bring in and have actual relationships with. So that's another thing you should be like, which I'll push later when you go talk, I'll be like, not only is this media, PR, and flyers and billboard, this is also, I'm taking you out to lunch. I'm taking you out to a coffee.
Come to my studio.
Yes, dude. It's all that in one, right? Yeah. It's all like, because now with Bill, I tell him, don't invite people to lunch. Do not invite people to coffee. Have them on your podcast.
Yeah, you'll get to know more about, it's like, so something I've been thinking about a lot about just podcasting as a whole, and like really why it's still, it hasn't even hit its peak in terms of
you
its
think
popular.
So?
Not even close.
Nice.
Not even close. There will be a moment, mark my words, that in like 5, 10, 15 years, like television as we know it will just be this.
It's gone, man.
It'll just be this.
Yes.
It'll be YouTube on TV, like Roku is already done, but like it'll just be ESPN is all just conversation, mostly unedited. It'll just be news as you know it will go away. It'll be like, oh, this event happened. Let's have a small podcast about it. And
the platform's just going to change, right?
But
just the distribution
the
wrapped.
I mean, well, when people start to expect a certain type of content, that's why it changes. For the longest time, the reason why news is what it is and journalism is what it is, and it's kind of like it's gotten a bad rap because of the way it is because for the longest time in history, information has not been as readily available. Impossible. You need a library with books in it and then the time to go read those books to actually get the knowledge. Or you have somebody like a pastor, somebody, a community member who is preaching or discussing kind of these problems and, having an open forum for the layman. So the power and the distribution and the content, if you will, of the early 1900s, which was newspapers, speeches, that kind of stuff, was restricted and put behind what would call economic paywalls, where unless you made this much money, you didn't have access to even understand or be in the room or get exposed to it unless the president of the United States was driving in a vehicle, and that's why there were so many parades, because that was the only form of communication to the big people, right? So now you have podcasting. For the first time ever, people who are broke, people who have no experience, who have no network, can finally distribute, not just podcasting, social media in general, can finally get their word out there, and then people are listening or not. And so even up until the late 90s and early 2000s when, the iPhone came out and the app started, to exist on social media, the only way you could hear about what The Rock was doing was one, if The Rock was on television and by then he was playing a character, or two, The Rock did an interview with a journalist, which went through dozens of filters, again, just like strict PR. And then three is if you go to Rock's signings, like that was the only version of him you had. And then, so if you as a person needed inspiration, knowledge, that you would either one, have to have the nepotism available to get into those circles to get that information, or two, just use the 3 minutes you have with them when he's signing your thing to ask that one question. Now that's gone. Now you can ask any industry professional, any CEO, any famous person. Like you get to know the true person and then the faults behind that person with an unfiltered kind of banner.
And as much as you want. So you can binge watch this person's content.
Correct.
For sure.
So now you can finally without having to feel excluded, get this information. And that's like what podcasting is given society. Yeah.
I want to ask both of you this. Austin first. Is it too late to start a podcast because, well, everyone's doing it now, right? Because I get that question a lot. Like, it's oversaturation. How do I stick out? How long should I be doing this? Am I too late to do this? That's one question. I'll ask both of you, and I have another question. So first,
this show is prime example of no. We started the show like 2 weeks ago. No, it's not too late. You could start one tomorrow. Really what you're, like Travis is saying, you're wanting to pass knowledge on, or you're wanting to have a platform. As long as you just get out there and start doing it, that's all that really matters. Because if you do it, the people will come. As long as you just stay consistent and you're putting out quality, quality doesn't have to translate to cameras.
How long would you say to stick with it? For a year?
Yeah.
The minimum.
I would say like a year minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I disagree. I don't think there is a timeline. I think
it's a case by case.
I mean, you interviewed John, my business partner, just on the last episode. And hopefully it comes out before this one, because then I'll look weird. He was basically distilling, it just matters on your network and how much you're willing to put in above and beyond the product. Because, we made podcasting easy, but let's say somebody doesn't come to Sticky Paws and record a podcast. They do it on their own. They like literally buy the mixer. They do all this stuff. Like, you created the content. That's hurdle one. But now you got to get it out there. And not until recently until the algorithms have really been kind of placing people's content in front of people. The only way you could really get it out there is if straight up, like how people back in the day with music, like handing CDs out, getting exposed.
For donations.
But it's never been an easier time than now to find your audience. Literally in no history in the world has it been this easy to just create something and it'll find the person you're looking for. Because whether it's your content is about coffee, or content about content, or content about MMA, you can finally just have a very niche fetish or whatever, and then just speak about it, and then the algorithm does its thing, and it
does get better. I think the algorithm is getting better to put your content where it's supposed to be.
Well, and I think we're gonna have a huge shift in society where people keep on blaming the platforms about their content. Like, my For You page is just all a bunch of death. It's like, that's what you're engaging with. It's like it's like getting mad at your reflection that you're ugly. It's like that is what an algorithm's there for. Yeah, okay, there could be some manipulation and propaganda being put in there somehow, but like most of the time, if you stop and watch a video and then you watch the next video, chances are it's going to relate to the video prior.
Well, I also think people need to understand too, and I'm super like, it's hard to understand. It's a hard pill to swallow when you realize that your content isn't being shown because it sucks.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Or you just need to get better, right? Like part of doing this is, you may not be the best podcaster at first, but it takes a little bit of time to get good at it, right? Like I'm going to ask you, like you weren't this great when you started, right? Maybe you were.
I mean, depends
maybe Travis was born great.
Define started. I mean, it was a very slow burn, right?
So like you understand, I mean, it took you years to understand the process, right?
Correct,
Whether it's like, I need to speak properly, I need to enunciate properly. You said you were super self-critical in the beginning, right?
Correct, yeah.
But it took you fucking years to do this shit.
Well, I mean, so distilling further why content works and why things work and why they don't is, at the end of the day, it's really not the quality, literally the quality of the product. Yeah, it has to be consumable. It can't just be literally like two, scratching two discs together and just like, rubbing it together and that's art or whatever. But if you want to have a discussion-based medium like podcasting, it's not about the camera quality. It's not how many camera angles you have. It's not even about the microphones or the mixer. You can create a podcast on voice memos on your phone. What it's about is the genuineness. Since the Industrial Revolution, we have, as a society, we have had filtered content delivered to us forever.
Filtered.
Like we had no choice. It was whatever the newspaper said. It was whatever this. And yeah, call it propaganda, call it brainwashing, call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day, we weren't in control of what we're consuming. Yeah, we had community centers and we can go out and do stuff, and it's kind of hit a peak in the early 90s where it's like any content you were consuming you didn't have a choice. You had a choice between content, but you didn't have a choice about the content. So now, for the first time ever, I think in history, at least in the modern history, like we get to choose what we watch, and we are sniffing the bullshit. Our bullshit meters have gotten so good.
Yes.
The moment you flick up on an swipe up algorithm, and you can just be like, do you ever swipe up? Within the first 1.5 seconds, we know if they want to tell us something that they believe in, or two, they're peddling shit. So our policy here at Content Junkeez and Junkeez Network and as a brand is like, our goal is to provide value. And through our value and through our expertise, we can sell whatever. Because if at the end of the day, we believe in podcasting, we live it, we understand where it breaks, I don't have to sell you anything. You're just going to know that I believe in my thing so much, and you can see the product in action, that it's going to work.
And because you have the platform, you build the authenticity, you build the
community.
The community, you build the respect. Now they're going to take you more seriously and go, okay, if he's pushing this, then I'm more likely to listen to him and maybe buy it myself because I like him. I have trust in him because I've been listening to him for so long, or, I'm familiar with them. So I know it's not just some random person peddling me something.
So, but like to go back to how I said the quality doesn't matter. It's like, we know our bullshit meters have gotten so good at knowing if somebody's true or not, that's why most of the younger generation doesn't listen to the news. They know it's a teleprompter. They know that person speaking on the camera doesn't believe what they're saying. They might, but like they're not genuine at the very least. And what we've been craving, it's kind of like we've been starved of, is genuine people, right?
Yeah.
So now we're looking into our content to give us that honest, like, yeah, that person might be crazy as hell, but I prefer that crazy Nazi I'm watching on YouTube be a genuine person as opposed to like their ulterior motives. I want to peer into someone's brain and who they are truly. So if content isn't working, right? Whether it's a podcast or a YouTube video, whatever, you have to ask yourself, would you be thinking this way if you weren't comparing yourself to others? The cool thing about podcast, the best thing you could do in podcasting is not consume any other content. Just trust us to give you the format, but don't research. Don't research about what anyone else is doing, because the moment you start comparing yourself
or copying,
you're now placating to someone else's genuineness. And then again, our bullshit meters are so good. We go, no, this is person thing. And that's what's happening. Is like some people are better at hiding it, some people aren't or whatever. But you ask yourself, if your content's not doing well, the barrier of entry is just if you're genuine or not. And then it could be nominally
That's
improved.
the barometer for sure, dude. It's
Correct.
the bullshit meter, right?
the bullshit
it's
meter.
Is this guy full of shit?
Right.
Or not? Is this guy trying to sell me some shit or not? Or if you are gonna sell some shit, make it transparent that you're gonna do it, right?
Or like use the product. Like
Yes.
I mean, if I'm gonna sell you a T-shirt, like hopefully I'm wearing that T-shirt. That's
sure.
That's the craziest thing. It's like and that's why there's been so many laws across the world about knowing when an ad starts and it ends. You know? Fun fact for you: in Nickelodeon, so in early children's television, there was a problem where the programming and the advertisements seamlessly intertwined, where it would just be like programming, ad starts, ad comes away, programming. And there's a huge concern that the children didn't know when the ads began and then when the ads ended. So it was federal law at some point in America where they needed to have like a bumper. We'll be right back, a word from our sponsors.
Oh, I didn't even know
and that
that.
was because of they didn't want the children to be accidentally brainwashed by this product. So they're like, so they think genuine content while they're there. And then here's a word from our sponsors. You had to delineate whether or not this is somebody else's voice or your genuine voice, right?
I didn't even know that. And I used to put those commercial bumpers in.
Right.
Like, why am I putting this here?
Precisely. So now when it comes to content, I think it's super disrespectful to your audience and to the people who give you your time, especially in a podcast format where you're spending over an hour taking their time, whether they're on the way to school or the work or whatever. It's like if I'm gonna say this episode's sponsored by this mug, like I'm either gonna say this episode's sponsored by this mug and then go on a whole ad copy, and at the very least to skip.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna be like, guys, like I've been using this mug forever and I just love it. End of ad. That's all you need to know, because if you trust me, if you trust my expertise, you love my lifestyle, it's not a matter of like needing to sell you it. Like you're going to look at my look, you're going to look at my watch, you're going to look at my pants and be like, damn, in order for me to be more like him, he's my idol, I'm going to do as he does, right? It's like how The Rock sells supplements and his workout plans. It's like he doesn't have to sell anything. He just lives the life, and people are like, I want to be him. I'm going to do as he does.
And that's a good way to even, because my next question was how to make money from podcasting.
Yeah,
you just kind of segued into it right
definitely.
there.
Well, I can answer that one more.
Yeah,
so
go
than
ahead.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
have a perspective. Austin, to give you context to kind of tee you up, is like he's been what I would say be breaking the rules of the Podcast Junkeez network. Our rule generally is no traditional ads, no pre-roll, no mid-roll, no post-roll. Focus on building connections and network with people to monetize first. But Austin has an interesting perspective on this.
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about it on previous shows. So I monetize the actual content. So like the fact that like on the podcast platform, there are ads. Some of them are read by me. Some of them are just generic ads that Spotify throws in there. But also monetizing the views. So like on TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, I can monetize from people just watching the content and seeing the ads on there. So I think with TikTok, what it does is it puts an ad before or after your video, and then that counts it towards my video.
That's how you get paid.
Correct.
On your podcast.
So when you swipe up, you have an ad that's either belonging to the TikTok before or the TikTok after, or maybe
something
it's split
like
both.
something like that. But yeah, I mean, but monetization for me, and granted, now I'm actually working on. I just landed a sponsor in the last week, so now I'm working on. Okay, well, how do we incorporate that? Like, yeah, sure, I'll probably do an ad read at first, but then how do I break away from the ad read?
It's wild because the way I do it is the complete opposite of both of yours. Mine is all relationship based, kind of like a PR version with John. Like I use it as, my lunch, my dinner. Here you go, have fun. And that's how I monetize in the back end with the conversations and FaceTime and DMs and direct to just direct conversations. So I think there's a lot of ways you can actually make money, different versions of making money. By having a podcast, whether you're showing your personal brand, you're sending your message out, or you're doing it like Austin, where he's monetizing the views, which I need to learn more because it seems like Austin's figured it out. But
to an extent,
all right, so did you have any other questions?
Yeah, so I wanted.
Travis?
Hold on. I wanted to answer
yeah,
the
yeah,
second
yeah.
half.
What was
of
the
my
second half question?
Well, basically, he takes it from the perspective of you build up a viewership.
Yep.
You have an honest, like you get views, right? Like that's what the algorithms want. They want more views because that brings people more to their platform, which makes them more valuable to advertisers. Then they get more advertisers, and it's just an exponential feedback loop. So the platform rewards people bringing views, and sometimes that's through means that break their terms of service and they ban you for it, and then maybe that makes advertisers unhappy. But do you hear what I said? They ban you for it. So now you're making content that people want to see, and now they're going to kick you off your platform. That's some fucking bullshit. So it's almost like pre-monetization on all your platforms. Your content just doesn't get touched. The moment your content gets monetized on a platform, you are now censored.
Sure.
Instantly.
Whether that was like the whole Elon and Bob Iger type of stuff with Twitter and stuff.
100%.
People, creators are getting banned, or even with YouTube, right?
Yeah. So and it's really unfortunate because podcasting is like, oh my God, hoorah. Podcasting is this like, wild west of content. You could talk about anything you want. It's your platform. It's self-hosted. Like even the platforms can't even take you down because you host it from your website and it gets distributed on these platforms.
Okay. Well, how about this? Okay. If you don't go that route, you can still make your own Venmo link.
Correct.
You can still go tip me. I see creators doing tips, or just like, just pay me, basically. Give me some money.
So here's how we see it. So we, at Podcast Junkeez Network, what we want to do is invest all of our 99 cents of every dollar created back into cultivating a community. The way I see it is like, if you have 1,000 people, that's 1,000 people. You see that number on your TikTok, you feel like you failed. But if you get 1,000 people who are genuinely your fans, they buy your merch, they follow you everywhere. So, and I'm not talking about millions, just 1,000 people willing to give you $5 a month. Not even Patreon status, not even like on a subscription status, but just like you've cultivated that. You can finally you can monetize them because you're not selling out. You're giving them value. Because if you make a brand, right, that is talking about, tax write-offs, right? And you're just really good in giving out information about tax write-offs. The last thing you want to do is just turn on monetization. The companies, because they're sponsored by tax people, are going to be like, hey, you're giving out advice for taxes, but you're not licensed, banned. So now all those 400 people that you cultivated can't see your content because you got too greedy. But instead, you go to a tax professional. You're like, hey, Mr. Tax Professional, I have content that we talk about tax write-offs and whatever. I need somebody to go deliver it. Like, do you mind if you give me $1,000 a month? And anytime I have a referral, I'm going to give it to you because I trust your business. I trust your values. So now without having to turn on monetization, without having to be censored, I can now be doing deals directly with a business that benefits personally from your hard work and gives value to your audience. And that's a better deal to make. So now you can make content on these platforms. Don't turn on monetization. Now you're not subject to all their monetization rules, and you don't have to placate to the guy, the man, and you can finally skirt around and make your own money. That's the power that podcasting has been giving people.
Yeah, and Travis is talking specifically about sponsorship deals, brand deals directly, where they pay you first, and then you either get a retainer fee.
But you can still be subject to. We saw with Dana White said it, Theo Vaughn said it, where they did an episode with somebody and they go, we want you to take that episode down. Or we want you to remove us as a sponsor.
Right.
But you're going to have to write that in your contract, right? Like you're going to have at least an upfront conversation, not after the fact.
Well, 100%. And I think that if you really, and this is what we're doing at Podcast Junkeez, is if you stick to your guns and don't even accept the deals that are bad, you will never run into a moment where you feel like you're inhibited or placating to someone else because your value, that tax company or that whatever company, if they have all the power, why don't they make the content themselves, right? So obviously you have value, inherent value. So if a platform, if people are watching your content, engaging with your content, you're building a community, even if you don't monetize it, that is value. That's like being a priest and having a congregation of 1,000 people. Those people trust your word. And the last thing you want to do is like, ladies and gentlemen, let's praise the Lord. This episode is sponsored by, that's ridiculous. You would never have a pastor be like, and a word from our sponsors. BetterHelp is the number. No one does that.
It'd be great if they were like, we're going to praise the Lord right now. A word from our sponsor. Liquid Death is really good for you.
What's going to happen is the pastor's going to be like, guys, I've noticed that a lot of you guys have been going through mental health issues. That's why I brought in our local business professional and therapist, Barbara. Barbara's going to take care of you guys. Which one of those ads, which are both monetizable, is a better value for everyone involved? It's the personal, hey guys, I see you have an issue, or you have a demographic that has this problem, and I filtered all the bullshit for you, and I found this company that will treat you right because guess what? I'm putting my personal name, I'm signing on it. Whenever it's a pre-roll ad that you touch, or it's whatever, it's very obvious that, yeah, okay, I get it, Mr. Creator, man. Like, you're trying to, monetize, and good for you, but you're wasting my time. This is an hour-long fucking podcast. Like, I don't want to watch a 30-minute ad, a 30-second ad every 5 minutes just so you can make your content. I get it. You trying to make some money, and that's how I always justify it to myself when an ad runs. I'm like, okay, he's getting paid, hopefully, whatever. But at the end of the day, my time is being stolen.
I love it. I feel like we just did a John Orlando podcast and masterclass, and now we have a Travis Fletcher.
And now I want to get
masterclass.
into the actual. This isn't even the masterclass part of Travis. We're kind of running a little low on time, so I'll just keep it to one question.
The next guest can wait. Am I right?
No, the next guest literally is walking the walk.
Oh, yeah.
Walking the talk. Talking the walk.
Talking the walk.
But the reason why I really wanted to have you on is because we do content at scale here. So how you specifically, and I mean, it's kind of by way of us, but in your head, how have you managed to make content at scale, especially at the scale we do here?
I mean, it's just probably the worst thing I could say as a business owner is that we compromise quality.
To an extent, though, because you do have to sometimes make that decision.
That was your hook that you'll use for the clip, and then I'll follow up with this: is that we compromise quality because quality, like I said, kind of doesn't matter. It's the content. So if we know that we give the power to the brain, to the operation, whether that's the host or the sponsor or the company or the brand or whatever, we give them the power to be themselves. Then everything else shouldn't matter. Whether or not we film on iPhones and not DSLR cameras, whether or not we go on location or we have a set location, or whether or not you have a dedicated producer or 14 people, or whether or not you have 18 editors or one editor, it doesn't matter. Because what really makes content at scale beautiful is knowing that if you can build a template, right, which we have here at Sticky Paws and Podcast Junkeez Network, like this at scale part is the template. The content itself is completely unique. You listen to any show out of our studio, although it has the same lighting and the same cameras and the same microphones, they're not the same. There's nothing even similar about what you're getting from it. So whether or not right now this is version 1 of content at scale podcasting, version at scale 2 might be some crazy AI technology where you throw a drone up in the air and you have it follow around you all day. Like that might be the next version of content at scale. So content at scale only works if you do podcasting. Content at scale anywhere else is extremely costly. Like, I mean, where do you think film productions come from? You do a 30-second ad for television. How many people do you think it took to film it? Hundreds of people. At least. That's not efficient. That's not at scale. Perhaps, yeah, if you have enough money behind you, but in order to have that money behind you, you have to be making a lot of deals that a lot of people aren't touching. And so the how we do here at Sticky Paws and at Podcast Junkeez Network is that we create a template, and then we focus on making every part of the process what I call automated, whether that is literally AI, or you hire a staff of people trained to a certain level of expertise, like engineer, our main man, Rick, who is
on the rig,
who is an intern. Who's an intern who has proved himself time and time again about his ability to do it. And that just proves to us that what we're doing here is you don't need an A1 union technician to do it. You just need somebody who's a self-starter and wants to create content and wants to be a part of this team and feel fulfilled to do it. So you want to talk about content at scale, it starts with the people, the staff. And then it starts with creating a set of rules that you don't deviate from. We are very strict on our pipeline, right? Whether it goes from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3. When was the last time you thought, like when you were assistant editing and although you might have not written it down, but you have your set of things like, okay, you get the footage, you ingest it. And
you have to have systems and processes.
Right. It's systems and processes. If your creative workflow is like, you just stare at a whiteboard and you just mess around, and then you mess around on your phone, and then you mess around with the camera, and then you mess around in the edit, you're spending way too much time creating content.
I do that too sometimes, though.
And that's fine.
Hey,
and do you know what I call that? Instead of calling
it's called wasting time.
It's called R&D, research and development. I'm okay with wasting time if you're refining the process.
Yes, for sure. That makes sense.
But like at the end of the day, if you found it and you found what works and what your audience likes, then start reverse engineering it. Where can you make efficiencies? Instead of you editing, maybe it's an editor editing it. Maybe you hire somebody from the Philippines, and maybe you, like, whatever it is you do, just make sure that it's still true to your voice and your vision, right? Because whether it is a huge team of people behind you or yourself, like automating it is super important because you will hit a plateau of providing value to your audience. If that's why people value because of like you're always on time and you're concise and you're true and you're honest. It's like what journalism was back in the day before it got corrupt. It's like that's why people like you. And if you could build a process around you to put you on a pedestal and to really kind of keep that same vision and voice, but you outsource it doesn't matter. I'm outsourcing my labor, my brainchild to employees like, Austin and interns like Rick. And it's like that these people are automated, right? Because I could be doing all part of the processes like ourselves. And something at Sticky Paws 2 months ago, we departmentalized. Before, we had what was called predators, producer, editor, engineers, right? So it was one person assigned to a podcast, many podcasts, but a podcast. They would have to sit in the seat and produce it or engineer it. They would think of strategy, they would produce it, and then they would have to go in the back and then edit it. Yeah, okay. I could just get a bunch of predators and then they just do that at scale. But I was looking at it and like, Austin couldn't see his kid at night because he was doing every job. George couldn't see his kid. I was working my ass off. I'm like, oh my God, we have 5 guys here, but how are we struggling? So since we departmentalized, we allowed the producers to produce, the engineers to engineer, the editors to edit, and the social media people to social media. Everyone can be an expert in their field and get so good at creating that version of it. So now we can handle quite literally 4 times the bandwidth with the same amount of effort and almost literally the same staff.
I feel like this is like podcast workflow that we like. I just want to write this idea down because I feel like this needs to be an episode in itself. Like
we're for sure
flow and distribution.
We're for sure gonna have to have Travis on because with time running out. But like we can go all day with Travis on workflow and efficiencies.
I know Brandon's here hanging out.
Think about Mr. Beast and how he has never compromised his vision and voice throughout scaling him. He doesn't edit. He whiteboards ideas. He brings the creative people but he's strict. He's like, the moment it deviates from what he wants to do, he thinks that there's a bad actor or somebody trying to leverage his content to not provide wells in Africa or something. Like he cuts it right there. Boom. He doesn't get greedy. He puts 99% of his money back into his content to provide more value. Not to an acquisition, not to do whatever. It's because he knows that involving more people doesn't dilute the product as long as there's somebody at the top keeping the quality and understanding the voice.
Well, our next guest, I want to actually ask about audience building and community. And because like Brandon from Vegas, actually, he's going to be the next episode. He's actually a master of that, like actually nurturing your audience to give you like back, like, because if you give to them, they give back to you, whether it's money, supporting you with views, or even just sharing your content, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate you. Wish you guys having on me.
Yeah,
we need a part 2.
We're gonna have to do a part 2. But Travis, where can the people find you? What do you got going on these days besides yelling at me in the back room that nobody can see?
Yeah. So I mean, personally, I don't have much going on because I'm just spending every day doing what I do and what I love. You can find me personally on social media as @TravisFlesher. That's @TravisFlesher on X, @TravisFlesher on Instagram, @TravisFlesher on everything. But honestly, if you see content coming out of our studio and you're happy with what you see, just know that it's really not me. I'm the guy at the top making sure the quality's there, but every single person, whether they bring a new idea to it or a different perspective, I always explore it with the guys in the rule book that I've built and the workflow to try to appropriate it. So I really appreciate your time. Follow me on whatever. I barely post because I'm working so much, but hopefully we can have a lot more BTS content coming out of our studio so you can really see what the culture's like here. We did a little stuff. If you go to Sticky Paws Studios on YouTube, we had what was called Behind the Sticky, which it was a short run of a series where we were creating content about us creating content. It's super awesome, and I want to get back into it, and hopefully within the new year we can get something started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe Robert, a studio tour that we can film?
Yeah, I think we have a studio tour coming up.
Oh,
wink, wink.
Wink.
But yeah, so thank you so much to everybody for watching. Check out all the links down below and support us however you can. And until next time, take it easy.